Hello everyone and welcome to another video review from 3DGameMan.com. I'm Rodney Reynolds and today I'm having a look at a pretty compact case from Fractal Design. It is their Nano-S. Now despite its size, you can fit a lot of gear on the inside. It includes fans, you can install pretty long radiators and video cards and power supplies, fairly tall coolers. It has sound dampening material, and this model comes with a window. Now there's lots of computer cases from all kinds of companies, so you have a great selection. But the issue is a lot of them are just rehashes and they're boring. And that's usually not the situation with Fractal Design cases. And with that being said, let's see what this case has to offer. Now, relatively speaking, this is a compact case when you compare it to a mid or full tower case. However, you can only fit a mini ITX motherboard on the inside. So in those terms, I guess it's not so compact, right? There's certainly smaller ITX cases that are on the market, but what they're going for here is to be in that ITX category, but to fit as much computer goodness as you can on the inside. Now this case is mainly comprised of steel and plastic, and the overall dimensions are 203 by 344 by 412 millimeters. It weighs 4.6 kilograms, and the case volume is 26.8 liters. Now this particular model comes with a window on the left side panel, but you can get a non-windowed version, and that model has acoustic dampening material on the left side panel. By the way, there is sound dampening throughout the case. Now at the top, they include this panel. Optionally, you can remove this and install up to two 120s or two 140 millimeter fans, and optionally, you can install up to a 240 millimeter radiator. Now there are restrictions when it comes to radiators and the widths and whatnot. I'll list that as I'm going through the video. Now in order to take off this plastic top panel, you'll first need to release it from the inside, and note that it has acoustic dampening material on it. Now have a closer look at where you would install the fans or a radiator. Here are the audio jacks, reset button, power button with an integrated power LED, a status LED here at the front, and two black USB ports. Now while the front panel looks like it's brushed aluminum, it is not, but rather plastic. That of course is to keep the cost down. I still think it looks very sharp. On either side of the front panel, there's ventilation, and that of course is to allow the front fan or fans to intake cool air. And speaking of intaking air, they have a removable dust filter at the bottom. Now I don't know if you caught that, but in order to remove this bottom filter, you'll need to either tilt the case or lift it up at the front to allow your fingers to be able to get in to pull it out. Also, you'll need to remove this filter to take off the front panel, which you can do by pulling at the bottom. On the inside of the front panel, there's sound dampening material, and I'm sure you've noticed this by now. There are no 5¼ inch drive bays. And there's a removable dust filter which is held into place with magnets. To remove it, just pull from this side and it comes right off. To reveal, one 140 millimeter intake fan. Now optionally, you can install up to two 120s or up to two 140s or up to a 280 millimeter radiator. Now thankfully there's no godly branding on this case. Like for example, there's nothing on the front cover to indicate who made it, but they do have their logo here and as well stamped on the inside on a few parts. Now while this particular model has a window on the left side panel, the right side panel is plain, except of course for the sound dampening material which is on the inside. At the back of the case, they include a 120 millimeter exhaust fan. Optionally, you can install a 120 millimeter radiator, and a note how the fan holes are slotted or grooved. That's good because it gives you a little bit more room to move things around if need be. Here's where you would install the motherboard's I/O shield plate. They include two ventilated expansion slots, and at the bottom is where you would install a standard ATX power supply. And by the way, they have rubber around here as well. Rubber rests for the power supply to lodge on, and included as well are 4 thumb screws, 2 on each side panel. Now this case is compatible with many ITX form factor motherboards, and the motherboard itself gets installed here. There is a large hole on the motherboard tray for the cooler's retention plate. As you can see, there's something on the back of that. That's for two 2.5-inch drives. I will show you that in just a minute. As well, there are plenty of rubber ground-mounted holes to route cables through, and there is plenty of space behind the motherboard tray and the right side panel. And you can actually take this bracket with whatever is mounted on it and attach it here. And note how the screw holes are slotted, so if required, you can move it up and down a little bit. Now you can fit a CPU cooler that is up to 160 millimeters in height. The recommended power supply length is 160 millimeters as well, and that's really to allow you some extra space. And as well, you can install a pump down here on this particular bracket, or a 2.5-inch or a 3.5-inch drive. Optionally as well, you could put a 120 millimeter fan at the bottom or a 120 millimeter rad. So it really depends on what you're doing here, and that will dictate the length of the power supply. Now as for video card length, well, you can fit one that is up to 350 millimeters long. The expansion slots have thumb screws, and while I'm here, have a look at the black flat flexible fan lead. The other one's like this as well, and it comes with a 3-pin connector. Now behind the motherboard tray and the right side panel, you've got between 17 to 35 millimeters of space, and you can install another 3.5-inch drive on this bracket. Notice that there's one thumb screw, remove that, and this whole plate comes out. You can also install a 2.5-inch drive on it. Plus, you can install up to two 2.5-inch drives on this removable panel. And a note that they have Velcro here to attach the cables. At the bottom, there are 4 rubber feet. Note that they are silver, but they're not very tall. Remember, you have the power supply's intake fan down here, and optionally, you can install a 120 millimeter fan. I suspect the reasoning with having feet that are not that tall is you don't want to have, a case that's too tall overall. But they're certainly tall enough to allow the bottom fan or fans to intake cool air. So if you're in the market for a fairly affordable ITX case that needs to be quiet, look great, have decent build quality, and you can fit a ton of hardware on the inside, well, this just might be it. Overall, it's a kick-ass product. Until next time, take care. Well, that's it, but I hope you enjoyed the review. And if you think this and other videos that I produce are great, please like them, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, your comments are very welcome. And if you have any questions, let me know.